Well, the top story from this year is what has been described as the perfect storm that hit Louisiana soybean farmers. It started out as looking like one of the best crops on record, and some farmers did get amazing yields. However, a combination of bad weather and market conditions that stopped the crop from moving made it a total disaster for some farmers, like Richard Fontenot, who told TWILA's Melancon that he lost more than 2/3 of his crop in 2 weeks.
Last week, we went out to Clayton Hurdle's sugarcane farm, where the crop is growing fairly well. Across the levee, inside the Atchafalaya Basin, Hurdle also has a soybean crop, which is also doing well.
Pretty good shape. Got most of the crop out, got a little bit left. I've got storage, so that helps a lot when you're talking about damage and some high moisture.
Hurdle's neighbors to the west, though, aren't nearly as lucky.
This is this field.
Here, Neil Fontenot is showing some of the damaged beans from his farm near Ville Platte. The constant rains have caused some of them to turn white with mold, as you can see here. He's showing it to Todd Spivey, a soybean expert with the LSU Ag Center, who says prior to Labor Day, we were on track for a bumper crop of soybeans in Louisiana.
A lot of the beans that were harvested in late August, really right around Labor Day, and in the first couple of weeks of September, again, like I mentioned, they were really good. We saw some really good yields across the state, fields averaging in the 90s up north, fields averaging in the 60s and 70s on the cane ground. In the southwest part of the state, we heard some numbers as high as close to 50.
All of that changed with the nonstop September rains. Spivey said the rains have kept a third of the crop in the fields, where it might stay permanently.
We're going to lose a lot of harvested acres there, and then those ones that are harvested, the yields are going to be way down and damage is going to be way up.
Richard Fontenot, who farms with his brother Neil, is one of those southwest Louisiana farmers facing severe damage.
Well, in September we went ahead and we sprayed our burn down, if you will, and defoliant. And in anticipation of coming in, our 14-20 days after that, start harvesting. And when we did come in that time period, we've had 7-8 days of consecutive rainfall. And the crop deterioration was so rapid that when we finally got here, we had a product that was no longer marketable.
Spivey says that when a crop is sprayed with the defoliant and it rains, the moisture has nowhere to go but into the seed pod, and that's where problems start.
The pods and the beans in the field, they'll still draw in some of that moisture, and with no leaves on the plant, with no really good way to move that water off, that plant just kind of sits there holding on to that water. And that's going to allow us some disease issues to set in. We'll see some beans begin to rot as they just sit there in that water, in that moisture.
The rot results in this: piles of soybeans that will stay in the field. What I can't show you is the smell of this rot, which pervades 1,000 acres of Richard Fontenot's land. 1,000 acres, he says, will likely be plowed under.
You got a big area in southwest Louisiana had the same dynamic impact. They had a few more rains as you travel a little southwest, but unfortunately their plight is similar to ours in terms of the rainfall and harvest delays and deterioration of crops in the field. We got a lot of farmers out there that have a lot of soybeans that will not be harvested this coming year, and it's going to have a dynamic impact in the southwest part of the state as well as other areas.
Fontenot is fortunate in that he has a second crop in rice, as well as on-farm storage that many farmers in Louisiana do not. Even with these assets, it's still going to be a tough year for him and across the state. For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Neil Melancon.
Richard Fontenot has been featured on many national programs, including the Nightly Business Report on PBS and CNBC, highlighting the disaster that hit many farmers this year. Hopefully, that new bill from Representative Abraham will be able to help farmers like Fontenot. Plus, the talk from the recent G20 summit is both the U.S. and China have promised no new tariffs in the new year.